Welcome back to Stationeers. Tonight we're going to be making a few changes to our atmospheric room, some miscellaneous bits and tidy up. So I've not actually put the bottom of the atmospheric units in yet, but we are just welding these things up. I'll take the welding sort of areas back down once I get them all done. And on this side, you see I haven't really started yet because there's some things in here that we need to change. First of all, I'm probably going to want to move that, but that's like that I can do later. I don't need to do it straight away. What I do need to do straight away is this. Remember I put in this valve, and this valve allows anything from the furnace, which is inside there, but also anything from the arc furnace to basically be mixed together in this line, and then it comes to this point, at which point we decide to then look over here. Comes all the way over here, and there is no control over any of this kind of thing. It's all the same here as it is all the way over here near the furnace. Now, the furnace has a bit of a problem here, and I want to be able to empty the furnace entirely. Basically means I want to empty this section of pipe all the way, at least until here, outwards. So sending it into the rest of this pipe here. To do that, we're just going to get rid of this. No more valve. That can go away. Don't really want manual valves all that much, so that can do. And yes, a pressure regulator would do here, but I think we're going to go with a volume pump. It shouldn't be needed all the time, so having a sort of high capacity but high power usage device would actually be fine. There we go, and I want it pointing this way. Yes, there we go. So then all I need is some power. And where am I going to get power from? Over here, it looks like. So I'm going to have to run a power run from here, all the way underneath, across over to this side. And later, we can use that same power for lights and everything else. But that's fine for now. I'm going to do that off camera, because I need to print more cable coil. But other than that, we should be done there. So let's just get some coil started. Cable coil and start. Once that's done, I will then hook it up so we can empty out our furnace easily. And from there, what do we actually need to do from that? I don't think anything else there, no. So I'll do this first and we'll come back in a second. And as I'm wont to do, I decided to change my mind a little bit here. Instead of powering it from that building, we're going to power it from this building. And it's entirely a different run of cable. Mainly because I want the volume pump to be controllable from within inside this room, which is where the furnace is. So I want to be able to control that later by a program. So we will then make sure that is nicely controllable from here. And there it goes. So if I just turn it on, it should turn on. Yep, it's fine. And that will already be evacuating our furnace. And then, of course, I can just put the floor back and re-weld everything else back together. But other than that, that's all working nicely. I just haven't put a block. Wow, did I just waste a block? I put some grating one block down. It's one of those things. Do I have any more gratings? I thought I printed some, but maybe I'm short. Anyway, we'll actually get that done soon. Let's just pop inside and we can take a look at that. So hopefully that should now be, yep, it's depressurizing. Good. That's all working. Nowhere near as fast as if I was doing it straight to the atmosphere, of course, but it's going to work fine. And then we'll add some control for that later. Let's talk about furnaces. I've just made another batch of steel, and you'll see right now this thing is cooling down slowly. And if we go back out the front of the system, in fact, do I have any more iron? I just need some more iron while I'm here. Yeah, looks like I do. Back at the front of the system, we'll just put that in here. Probably iron in both of these. What did I actually want? I need some more cable coil, so I'm just going to need some more copper. Yes, so with the furnaces, what we're going to want to do is improve our current setup. Our current setup is very manual. You just put in a couple of the ores, and that sort of works. But we can do a lot more, well, a lot better than that, basically. What we can do... What am I bringing the copper this way for? What we can do instead is, first of all, get this printing into cable coil, because I'm going to need quite a bit of it. Yeah, and let's just drop the rest here. What we can do is store H2 and O2 over this way. We can store it in tanks. You'll see I've colored this one red. That's the pollutant tank. We know we've already got nitrous here. CO2. Yeah. Then we're going to be able to probably get nitrous next in that one. And at which point we've got 4 tanks left. Now, one of these last 3, or sorry, 2 of these last 3, we're going to have for hydrogen and oxygen. Don't mix them. Okay. What we're going to also do is have a sort of handy way of getting them into the system. So we probably want to print another furnace. It's the easiest way to do this. And instead of being connected to anything else like a, shoot network or something like that, all this thing is going to do is just going to take ores. It's just going to let us basically manufacture them. So let's just grab, manufacture them. It's going to let us absorb them without igniting things. So a furnace, that is 10 copper. Good. Good thing I brought some copper. And that's going to take a little while. So that's going to be on the input side. So it's going to be on this side of the building, right here. You'll see I've moved this pipe analyzer now. It's over here. And we've got a nice clean setup here. So I may even move that to the left a little bit so it's symmetric. Anyway, we could put a furnace wherever we like. As long as we put into the input, it will start outgassing. So if we put, just like if we put it in to actually fire it up, it absorbs or sublimates into the inside of that furnace. But if you connect to the output of the furnace, you can literally put that output to our input of our sorting system. So you can feed in volatiles and it will go into each of the way, whichever tank is actually appropriate, and the system will turn on once you have that connected. Good so far? Okay, so once you have that in, let's say just these 2 tanks here, what we can do is we can send a pipe up and behind them. So they're going to be connected to each of these. And that pipe will have pure gas in it. Don't mix them, okay? Don't put them together. You will regret it briefly, but you will regret it. So if we go, just get my jetpack on and go up to the top here. If we get our 2 pure pipes and we send them across here, remember this is going to be a steel roof, not a glass roof. So if we get the steel roof and we maybe reuse that and just take this off, let's take that off now. In fact, I don't actually want that anymore. You can go away. And we bring them down again into the inside of our furnace room. What we can do is very close to the end of the whole thing, we can combine them. Now, we've got to be careful when we combine them. You're going to want a mixer to control the ratio between the 2. And you're also going to want something else. You're going to want probably some pressure regulators. And we can do those in 1 or 2 different ways. We can put the pressure regulators first, and then the mixer, or vice versa. The problem is if you put the mixer first, is that after that point, and before it gets to the pressure regulator, they're mixed in that bit of pipe. So we may need pressure regulators first, just to make sure that the mixer really can't combine too much gas together. Worst case, because you end up losing it. If the pipe bursts due to a spontaneous combustion, yeah, that does happen. Particularly if it's exposed to high temperature, it can combust inside the pipe. So we're going to want to keep that cool if possible. So on the roof, we may well have those those pipes coming from our H2 and O2, sort of with radiators. Now it's sort of usually fine if we're at this kind of temperature, at 7 or 8 degrees, etc. Stuff like that is fine. But if you've got high temperature gases from in here, then when they're in here, they're getting mixed, and then as soon as they go through these filtration units, they're still at that temperature-ish. They'll expand because they go into a tank, which will cool them down, but you've got to be a bit careful. You don't want to ever mix them when they're high temperature, so we may need some kind of guard on the system as a whole. Anyway, before we get to that point, input is right here, so we can put in a furnace, and the furnace does not need an output really. We're not really interested in pulling anything out of this thing, so all we really need to do here is connect this. Okay. And we need to connect the output. Well, in fact, hang on, I just need some iron sheets. I thought I had some iron sheets around here. That's some iron walls. Iron sheets, yep. So, wrench and iron sheets. Yeah, that's not a wrench, that's why. Or a spanner. There we go, and two iron sheets. I need another iron sheet. So yes, we can just connect that to the input, and then we can absorb all of our fuel. Of course, there's no point doing that until I've got the filtration set up, so we need a couple of filters. We're going to want an oxygen filter. Okay, and I'm going to go forward, and then we're also going to print off a pollutant filter. So let's just get that sorted. And I'll put that in the relevant block. There we go. Volatiles and oxygen. Did I just change that? Otherwise it's going to keep... No. Stop. This is fine. Let's drop that baked potato for a second. It's fine because having two filters is not a bad thing. You can put them in two slots here. So where do we want the H2? I think I want the H2 here. And the O2 can go here. Okay, so that's going to be H2 respectively. And maybe I should spray paint these the same colors as the filters themselves, rather than just doing arbitrary ones like that. So in this case, pollutant is a yellow color, so I may have to spray paint it. Anyway, where was I? I need iron sheets, and we'll get that furnace finished. We can get those straight from the auto lathe. Well, in fact, it's one, and I just need another one. That should do. Okay, we'll grab our wrench again. And I'm just going to need a little bit of pipe, but not very much at all. Welding torch even. There we go. So furnace setup, and then I just need a little bit of pipe. Do I have any in my backpack? I do. And which one's the output? We want the output. We don't necessarily want an input into this one. It's just really being used as a system for getting stuff into our regular system. So there we go, and grab you. And corner. There we go. So anything we put into there should go straight into our input, which will then be assessed by our program and get pulled into the relevant tank. From there, I'm going to build two pipes over the top, probably put in some steel frames now. I've just made some more steel, and we will then bring them down into the sort of furnace area-ish. I will probably, however, remove the rear walls just so that we can actually see this. So let's just remove those now. And get that pipe put away. So let's just see, how much room do we have to maneuver in here? Quite a bit. I'm glad I left a fair amount of space. So you'll see here, there's our input. So we're going to have to bring the pipework probably down in this block space and then bring it here. And in this last area here, we're going to be having our sort of mixing area. We'll be careful about it, but we should be able to get it done if we're careful. So yeah, let me get a few things together and I'll bring you back for that. Okay, so here we are, and I've printed off some bits and pieces. We've got a pressure regulator, and that's going to be the final thing I think I want here. So that means I'm probably going to want it. Let me just actually get some pipe for a second. I'm going to want it to be the last possible thing. Okay, let's just get that right. There it is. So I'm going to have it right here, and there we go, connecting that way. Well, it doesn't really matter which way around we connect it, other than the gas direction needs to be correct, which is that way. Otherwise, I guess I want the sort of cable connection pointing downwards. That looks right. Okay, yep, cable connection pointing downwards. Let me just get rid of this wall for a second. Because remember, this isn't actually anyway pressurized, so don't have to worry about that. It should be easy to get into this room if I just remove the cladding. I'm able to replace these with the sort of iron walls rather than cladding. Well, sorry, the steel walls, I should say. Right, so we've got a pressure regulator. That's going to be our final control. Next thing up, before this, can we actually connect straight to this via a gas mixer, or do we need one piece of pipe between them? It'd be nice if you could connect to them directly. It's not going to like this unless let's just see, where do we want this? I want the output facing, that would do. No, it doesn't. It won't let me connect it. Okay, so we'll have to have a piece of pipe then. unfortunately. And then our mixer right here. And at this point, we can actually connect this correctly. So if I put this here, you'll see I've got a few different options. I'm going to have it so that the connections go like that. Again, just like before, just like this. We're going to have one pipe coming in from the top and one coming in from this side. They're both going to be going up anyway, so it's not like that's unusual. So then I'm going to have, again with more controls, if possible. If I need a space in between them, then I'm going to have two more pressure regulators. Now this may be overkill, but I have had in Season 2 a problem if I didn't have overkill. So I thought, well, let's just belt and braces it this time, and let's see how well that goes. Let me just get that right. Yeah, I think I'll have them both connected that way, and then I need to just rotate that so I can get a power port connection. It's unfortunate I can't face them both the same direction, but yeah, it's fine. We're going to computer control them anyway. And these we can leave on, to be perfectly honest. We can control what these are set to. So if I set these both to 0, and then, you know, we just set them to something low. Let's just see, increase to 2 kPa, 3 kPa, something like that. Something low, 3 kPa. Okay, and then they will continually just make sure that this has got a low amount of pressure in it, this has got a low amount of pressure in it. This will then allow it through, so we can control it being let through with the gas mixer, turn it on, and we control here what the two inputs are. So if we have a look here, this is the input 2. So if we wanted a sort of 60-40 split or a 66, we could make sure input 2 is lower. So we want to increase, sorry. So if we have that, we can just bring that down to 3367. So now input 2 is basically going to be our oxygen there. So hydrogen is going to want to come into the top of this one, oxygen into the top of this one, and then this should regulate the mix of them, at which point, when this is set, it will then regulate the pressure that's being built up in the furnace. So we're being as safe as possible, keeping everything low pressure until after that point, at which point they'll be mixed inside the furnace. I hope that's going to work. If it doesn't, then we can always rebuild it. And maybe those of you who had more experience with gas mixers and pressure regulators recently, because I haven't used them in some time, can let me know. In any case, I'm going to just remove these two blocks here. The one there and one here. Yep, you can go away. Whoops. There we go. Let's get the steel sheets back. And someone did say, yeah, there is kind of a bubble effect with air. You see the slight distortion? Yep, I am aware of it. I'm just sort of strategically ignoring it. I don't quite know what's causing that, but it should be fine otherwise. So yeah, that does mean I probably want to reassign these to have oxygen. Did I say I wanted it there? So yeah, let's just keep everything nice and straightforward. We have volatiles on the end then. So this is the one that's going to go across into the top of that. And the top of this one is going to go into that one. And it's going to go over the top and across. So I need to now print off some steel frames, get things sorted, and I'll bring you back for, you know, hopefully an ignition. Hopefully a controlled ignition, more to the point. So in our furnace room, we're going to reroute the power again, so I get this on a separate subnetwork. I'm very fond of these subnetworks recently, and they just make a breeze when you're actually connecting things to computers. So we're going to control that, turn it on, and leave it without a battery for now. And then we're just going to connect everything else here to this power supply. So let's just get, well, our power sort of separator or converter or something, whatever you want to call it. There we go. Let's get that straight, straight, and straight. What I'm also going to do behind here is reroute the power for this thing from where it was, and going that way. We're going to bring it this way, and we're going to feed it straight from this APC as well. So we're going to bring it, yeah, going that way, and straight through that pipe, and then I think we should just be able to connect it going that way. I think 1, 2, and before I just disconnect that, just to be paranoid, I'm just going to pick up all this cable, There we go. And we're just going to replace that with a corner. Keep things nice and neat. That can go to a straight. Then this thing should be connected for both power and data to the only other things on this same subnetwork, which is these two pressure regulators, this pressure regulator, and this mixer. Make sense? Yep. And yeah, we can see we have power hitting there. So we now have the basics of this whole thing, aside from the fact I probably just need to get our system configured to be able to filter these two. So I first of all want just to add this to the system. This is the O2, so let's just rename you O2 filtration. Yep. I'm going to rename you H2. Let's put a cursor at the start there. H2 filtration. Okay, and that's enough for that. And then we just need to go back in here and connect these devices up. So what have I connected? So I've got pipe analyzer. Where's my screwdriver? Pipe analyzer. CO2 filtration. Pollutant filtration. So we want this now over here to be... let's have a look. We want... ooh, I've not connected it yet. That's why. It helps if you cable it. So let me just cable that off camera. There we go. So D3 we can have as the O2. Well, in fact, let's have that as the H2. And this one can go to be the O2. So D3 and D4 are two stations regardless. And if we just go back to our computer, I've ripped up all the floor again, but this should be actually a trivial amend. We just need to set all the way up here to alias H2 is D3, alias O2 is D4, and then I need to add another block further down. I'll save you from that typing. And now we get to do, if we find out if my code's right again. It's a very simple change to the code. It's just extending the existing one. So we've got H2 in there. We've got plenty of O2. So it's the O2 we want to watch for coming on and off. So if I hit export and then run down here quickly, yep, it looks like the O2 is turned on. And if we have a look at that, yeah, it's already absorbed it all. So that's good. That does mean, however, that we don't have any H2 in the system. However, it is dark. So we can go and test that as well. If I go back over here, and if it, how far through the night are we? Now we're about halfway through, according to the solar panels. So let's just go and get our mining belt or two. Let's just put you in here. And what have I got? I think I've got oxite in one of them, yeah, and I've got some volatiles in the other. Some volatiles should be just about enough. So let's go back here, and we're just going to dump these into the top of this. So let's just grab this for a second. I should be able to just grab them and drop them. And there's the same. And that should maybe trigger the system already. Yep, there it goes. And it's assessed them and it's basically dumped those in there. So we no longer need any of you. I can drop that for a second. And then we're going to want to basically probably just load the system up with oxide. Why not? I'm going to do the same for volatiles once it comes back to daytime-ish. And once I figure out how to just go and find some volatiles. I think there's just some behind the base. You know, the hillside I was digging out? I think it's just beyond that, if I remember rightly. So that's good. And we don't need these mining belts for a little while. Let's just leave them here. Let me see exactly how much of each material now we've got. So here... we've got 169 moles of H2 and we've got 2.1 kilomoles of O2. All right. And then if we just pop over here, you'll see everything is now cabled up. So we can have this pressure regulator set to 3 kPa. So let's just take a look. That's no pressure at the moment. No pressure at the moment. Good. So let's turn you on. And 3 kPa of O2. Good. That's so nice when this actually works. Not that I have any way ever broken my system at all doing this before explosively. And there is 3 kPa of H2. Now these I'll probably leave on. We don't need to really do much because they'll just make sure we've got a low amount of stuff in here. This will make sure that they are mixed but still at a low amount. So let's turn you on. So now you should see in a second in this you'll see that that is mixing. I don't like how much it's mixing in terms of the pressure. Okay, fair enough. But I want to turn you off. Yeah, it's letting... Yeah, but we can't really turn it on. We can't turn it on permanently because it will let this through, which will then cause these to keep feeding more in. And if these can't see beyond this gas mixer, then they're going to keep feeding more and more in. So we're going to be turning that on at the same time as this one, I think. Anyway, I think that's how it works. And have you actually combusted? You have not. Good. So from there, we can then basically tell this to basically feed it into the furnace. So you can see the furnace right now is pressurized. And that's largely because we don't have this thing extracting on the output. So let's just extract that. And then you can get the idea. We have a basic sort of system here whereby we can empty it, which is exactly what we're doing now. Shut off that pump, turn on both of these, and then once it gets to a certain value, we can turn these back off, hit ignite, and then when we're finished, we can push a button to evacuate the system. Now I'm going to be doing that with a computer program. I'm not going to do it this episode because we're already running a little bit short of time to actually cover that. But you get the idea, and this gives you, a day or so to have a think about the program that you might write. It is, well, should be fairly simple, at least at this particular point. And we've now got a system where we're no longer having to sublimate stuff into the atmosphere. So that's kind of nice, I think. For the moment, I'm just going to turn both of you off, because we're not going to be doing that this episode. That is going to be next episode. And, well, let's not have to use any extra power when we don't actually need to. And let's just take a look. How well are you doing? You're 2.6 kPa. You know what? I'm going to turn this up. I'm going to turn it up to, well, it's maximum, which is 100. And that's world, actually. I want the pipe. Can you show me the pipe? Come on, show me the pipe. Pipe network. 5.5 kPa. That's evacuating quite quickly. It does tend to use a lot of power when it's on that high, but since it's going to be something that will be running fairly quickly, I'm not too worried. Now, the other thing I was going to say is that what I don't have yet is, well, I do have H2 actually. Yeah. I have H2, which means I can technically put in a fill station once I have enough H2. How much do I have left? 166 moles. Once I have enough H2, I can basically have a breathing refill station. If you are human and playing this, you have O2 here as well. So you'd put your fill station right here. I'm going to put it right here. And just like this one down here, we have the CO2. It just needs basically a tank fill station, a canister storage, and a pressure regulator set to 9,000 kPa. And just connect that up to power. And I've got a power bus going along the back here, which I'll probably lead down that way. And then that will work perfectly well. You can have that fill up breathing, which means I no longer need our little, remember a little room that we built at the very, very start of the game? Yep, I no longer need that. So that can come down, which leaves this area quite nice. And yeah, we can get rid of this active vent, this pipe, and then the greenhouse, or what is sort of our starting greenhouse, will be just fine on its own with a couple of blocks space, which leaves a huge sort of space for us to build another building like that if we wanted to in the near future. How much space have we got? So we'll leave one gap again. So let's just grab that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. And if we have walls, that would need 3 on the inside. That's not too bad, actually, because it's narrower than this. This is 4. Although we could make it, yeah. Actually, we could make it full width. We'd just basically move that all the way down there. And then we'd move everything else around. So yeah, we could build a greenhouse on the bones of the old greenhouse, if you like. We could build the building around it, because that is only 3 wide, remember? And what is it like at this end? Is this end going to be... yeah, because this end is going to be fine as well, because it's going to be out here. So we can literally build a building around a building, and then building. You get the idea. We won't be doing this episode, though. That'll be the episode after next, I think. So yeah, we're getting on pretty well in our base. we've got an atmospherics room. You can see the pipe going along the top. But the way, if you want to equalize that pipe, it'll already be doing so with the atmosphere. So right now it'll be trying to equalize to 16 degrees. However, if you wanted to do it faster, you just need to get some radiators on here, and you can print them off from your machine. So let's just take a look at what the temperature of the pipe is. That's 12 degrees. At nighttime, of course, it's going to cool things. At daytime, it is going to heat things, but it's not going to heat it to the point that we're going to have problems. So that's perfectly fine. If there was a Mercury, that'd be an interesting one. Anyone know if there's a Mercury planet available? Mercury, of course, is very, very close to the sun, but more importantly, Mercury is tidally locked, which means its rotation period is the same as its rotation period around the sun, i.e. the same side faces the sun all the time, which means no daytime, no nighttime, just it's permanent day or permanent night, or you're on the Terminator. So if you started somewhere where you are literally on the Terminator, that might be an interesting playthrough. What do you guys think? If anyone wants to see that, you basically have that set to 0 and set to dawn all the time or something like that, and then you'd have to try and play across the Terminator somehow. I'm not sure how we'd actually do that, because you'd need to be spread across quite a long range. You know, if it depends how it models the sun, really. Yeah, that might actually be hard. Maybe it needs to be a line of hills or something, so you could basically have the Terminator being the hills as kind of your gameplay device. And on one side of the hills it's darkness because the sun isn't moving, and on the other side it's light because the sun is on that side of them, depending if that actually works or not. But that'd be a cool playthrough. And then you can basically harvest solar all day long on one side of the hills. On the other side of the hills you can basically chill things quite easily. However, yeah, what do you think? However, this solar side would be incredibly hot, so I'm not sure how that would deal with atmospheres. Yeah, so, well, we'll leave that alone for now. I'm going to get probably a recycler set up next episode to get some of these old filters, get it going through, or whatever it's actually called. There's 2 different blocks, I can never remember the name of them. And we'll probably put them out, well, no, maybe not out here. We're going to build a greenhouse, maybe at the back here or something like that, in the kind of an area outside. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. We've got the bare bones of our next version of the furnace up and running. I just need to go and look on the wiki for the pressure values, and the pressure values are just set then for this one pressure regulator right here. It will make sure everything beyond that point is, you know, fed to the right pressure, and it'll be probably more than this mixer will handle in the meantime. But if you wanted to be safe, you could just switch off these pressure regulators, you know, set based on sensing in here somewhere. We may have to move this around a little bit because we may need to read the pressures, but I think we can get most of the stuff we want from the furnace pressure. If we need an extra pipe analyzer, then we'll put one down, but otherwise we'll see. Okay, hopefully join me for the next episode. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, put comments down below with any suggestions for next sort of content coming up, and we'll see you next episode.